The tycoon Tao is stubborn. He sees two girls giving each other their phones in front of him. The story revolves around police officer Do Chel confronting Tao, the third-generation son of the powerful Sinjin group. A dark story about the intelligence, courage, and brutality of the rich. Truck driver Bei works at a software outsourcing company belonging to the Sinjin group. He works hard but is suddenly fired. Bei is not paid. Director Chun even avoids meeting Bei. Bei waits until night to meet Director Chun.
난 만나서 뭐 어쩌겠다고.
일방적으로 문자로 뜨 계약하자는 경우가 어디 있어요?
지금 말로 하잖아. 내가 때렸어? 안 보이냐고!
Because he is helpless. Bei calls police officer Do Chul, but he is at a party and does not answer the phone. Out of desperation, Bei led people to the Sinjin headquarters to protest to pressure public opinion. Coincidentally, when Tao arrived at the company, he saw this scene. He asked someone to call them in. So the meeting between two different classes sat in the same office. At first, Tao acted gentle, bringing tea and tea to tease the boy who came with him. But when he learned that they came for 4,200,000 won, he immediately changed his attitude.
맷돌 손잡이를 어이라 그래요, 어이. 어이가 없네. 파이트! 정신을 차려, 진짜! 이거 아까 기사님이 얘기한 여기 과자값.
But Bei's dignity and personality were trampled. When they went out, Bei put his son in a taxi and then he came back and wanted Tao to apologize. But Tao didn't care about anyone. Tao continued to use force to suppress Bei. Tao grabbed Bei's driver and punched him. One punch from Tao caused Bei to fall and hit his head on the table and pass out. Instead of calling an ambulance, Tao and Secretary Choi cleaned up the scene. Then they pushed Bei from a high floor. Then they used Bei's phone to text his wife that he wanted to do something stupid. Luckily, Bei hit the handrail of the stairs and escaped death, but he fell into a coma. When Police Chief Do Chul heard the news, he was extremely shocked. In Do Chul's eyes, Bei was very strong and optimistic, so he couldn't do such a stupid thing. Bei's son also said that his father was beaten by Tao. This made Do Chul even more suspicious. When Do Chul asked his colleague, he learned that the tycoon's headquarters was repairing cameras at the time of the incident, so there was no evidence left. This coincidence made Do Chul believe even more that Tao was involved. Then Do Chul went to the crime scene. When Do Chul stood at the spiral staircase, he felt the victim's despair. That night, Do Chul went to the hospital to visit Bei. Do Chul caught Secretary Choi trying to give money to the victim's family. The cause of death was still questionable, but they quickly consoled him with money. Therefore, Do Chul did not believe that this incident was not suspicious. At this time, Tao blatantly countersued driver Bei for causing trouble and obstructing company operations. Knowing this, Do Chul was very angry and swore that he would investigate to the end. At this time, Tao found a way to deal with it. Tao used his political connections to pressure Do Chul to withdraw. Tao also had Secretary Choi bring a luxury bag to bribe Do Chul's wife, Jiha also discovered a pile of money in the bag, but Secretary Choi said the condition was that Do Chul stop the investigation. In addition to this cash, they promised to pay off the house debt and pay for the children's tuition if Do Chul stopped investigating. With this amount of money, normal people might have to work their whole life to get it, so it was hard not to worry. But Jiha was not that kind of person. She put all the money on the table and exposed her bribery to everyone. Then, Jiha angrily went to the police station to blame her husband in order to not implicate her family, even though they had been married for many years. Do Chul had failed as a husband or father. Jiha did not care what Do Chul did, but she did not want his actions to implicate her family. What made Jiha most ashamed was when she faced that large sum of money. She was moved at times, but for Do Chul, the fact that Tao tried to bribe his wife further proved that Tao was guilty. Then Do Chul went to the Sinjin company to find Tao, but Tao avoided them and refused to meet. Seeing that, Do Chul stormed into the restaurant where Tao was entertaining guests and warned that he would find evidence to bring Tao to justice. After declaring war, Do Chul sought out reporter Park for help. Tao was afraid because Director Chun witnessed the day he beat Bei, so Tao asked Secretary Choi to arrange for him to go abroad. Director Chun suggested killing Do Chul and then began staging the scene as if he had been stabbed to death by a group of foreign debt collectors. He asked Secretary Choi to give him money to carry out the plan himself. At the same time, Tae-oh continued to attack. Tae-oh asked prosecutor to investigate Do-chul on the grounds that he beat the suspect. Tae-oh also released half of a video accusing Do-chul's wife of accepting bribes. Tae-oh continuously pressured Do-chul. Seeing that, Do-chul became even more determined to vigorously collect evidence. Following the clues, Do-chul found Director Chun's hideout. Director Chun was taken to the police station. He had to pay for everything he had done.
저기 검을 찾았네.
예, 알겠습니다. 막내한테 칼침 놓은 새끼가 누구야?
네가 우리 막내 칼침 났어? 비용신 같은 새끼.
어디 감히 경찰을 건드려? 사소한 놈 여기다 데려다 놔!
다 살인교사로 판 뒤집혔다.
Not being allowed to investigate Bae's case, Do-chul changed direction to the suspected murder of a police officer to find Tae-oh. Do-chul's interrogation was rough but effective. Do-chul helped the police arrest Tae-oh for giving money and plane tickets to Director Chun to escape. But that alone was not enough. Do-chul's ultimate goal was to find out why driver Bae did such a foolish thing. Do-chul then asked the female police officer to investigate the day of Bae's accident. At the same time, Do-chul received a call from driver Bae's wife. She gave Do-chul a text message from her husband. It was a fake suicide note. Do-chul noticed something was wrong with just a glance. Bae's writing style was short and had spelling errors, but the letter was long, neat, and had no spelling errors. Even using slang words among young people, it was clearly not in line with Bae's habits. Do-chul tried to hold back his laughter to avoid being rude to the victim's family. The call log was then retrieved. It showed that someone had called the police before the victim fell, but was disconnected before the connection was made. 15 minutes later, the will was sent from driver Bae's phone to his wife. This indirectly proves that something happened to Bae before he fell. That day, the truck drivers gathered to demand their wages. Tae-oh invited driver Bae into a private room with his son. Bae was beaten by Tae-oh and then underpaid. Because of humiliation, Bae let his son go home while he went back to find and asked Tae-oh to apologize. As a result, Bae was beaten unconscious, and someone tried to call the police but was stopped. Immediately after that, Tae-oh made up a fake suicide note to cover up the crime. In the end, Do-chul had enough physical evidence, but there was still a lack of witnesses. Bae was still in a coma, so he could not testify. Now a second piece of evidence cannot be found. In the case of the truck driver who fell from the building, Do-chul was persistently following him. When President Yu received the news, he was furious. He scolded Tae-oh and Secretary Choi terribly, but the one who was beaten was not Tae-oh, but Secretary Choi. He had to kneel down and lift his butt for President Yu to beat. With the progress of Do-chul's investigation, Chairman Yu was very worried. In the current situation, someone had to come forward to confess. Tae-oh absolutely could not go to jail. In order to protect his son, he forced Secretary Choi to confess all the crimes during a special meal. Chairman Yu took Secretary Choi's hand and promised to use the best lawyer to get Secretary Choi out of jail. After Secretary Choi was released from prison, he would become the chairman. If Secretary Choi did not agree, he should think about his family. Under pressure and promises, he was forced to go to the police station to confess. This made Do-chul extremely angry because he was about to catch the culprit, but now someone came forward to confess. Do-chul asked Secretary Choi why she did this. Obviously, just an apology would solve everything. Secretary Choi smiled awkwardly and insisted on confessing. At this time, Captain Oh went to see the police chief to ask for permission to conduct a thorough investigation, but the chief told him to stop the investigation because someone had already turned himself in. Moreover, all the cases Do-chul's team had previously been transferred to other teams. But luckily, when they were desperate, they found a witness, Taeo's bodyguard. When Taeo hit the driver Bae, he was also at the scene. Taeo's bodyguard was the one who called the police, but was stopped because his leg was broken. He was holding a grudge and took the initiative to testify. Do-chul was extremely excited. Do-chul immediately went to see Secretary Choi and warned that the truth would be exposed. Secretary Choi laughed contemptuously and said that the truth was not important at all. Secretary Choi said that Taeo would fly to Singapore tomorrow morning so no one could catch him. Not willing to give up, Do-chul investigated and found out that before he left, he would hold a farewell party, and this party was a drug party with a lot of people. To make sure nothing went wrong, Do-chul and Captain O went to ask the chief for help. The two of them recalled the scars on their bodies and talked about their old comradeship. Finally, the chief agreed. That night, Do-chul brought people over, but they were stopped by bodyguards. Inside, Taeo was forcing a girl to abort her pregnancy.
네, 죄송합니다. 글쎄.
내가 너 무슨 수를 써서 나가?
그들이 진짜 안 쏠려고 그랬더니
형님만 장비 챙기셨어?
하야, 정신 차려.
같은 새끼가! 씨!
Finally, Do-chul stopped Taeo's car. Surrounded by people filming, Do-chul shouted for an arrest warrant according to procedure. Then Do-chul deliberately angered Tae-ho.
어이. 지금부터 정당방위다. 폭행 추가야. 여기 다 찍혔어 이 씨파 새끼야.
The police arrived in time. Do-chul was taken to the emergency room, while Tae-o was escorted to the detention center. At this moment, driver Bae woke up and was ready to testify. Although under the power of the tycoon, the evil person was only imprisoned for a few years. The seeds of justice were sown. Whoever does bad things will have to pay the price. No one is noble or inferior. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.